Welcome to an exciting thought about Rahul Gandhi or Sangh Parivar's favorite whipping boy, Pappu. You would have wondered whether, when the Sangh Parivar chose to caricature Rahul Gandhi as a Pappu, a mentally, intellectually retarded person, a good for nothing fellow, somebody who is bound to be an utter failure in everything that he lays his hands on, whether the Sangh Parivar was merely indulging in the favorite pastime of caricaturing and denigrating those they dislike, or, and that's the exciting part, whether they were simply betraying a certain cognitive problem. Now, don't get upset with my using one or two technical terms. Sometimes these technical terms help us to think and to articulate more precisely. But before I enter into the main insight that I want to share with you through this video, I need to say something by way of a preface. In all my previous videos, at least in nearly all of them dealing with either Sri Rahul Gandhi or Sri Narendra Modi, I've taken the consistent stand that we should align ourselves with neither camp. Though, in the communally, ideologically charged atmosphere in which we exist today, telling the truth will make one or the other parties or both parties suspect that we are partisan. But the possibility or the fear of the possibility that we would be so labeled should not intimidate us into denying the truth that we know. Fearlessness is the precondition in which meaningful thinking can be undertaken. I propose to do another video on fear and the damage it does to human personality and connect it to Rahul's exhortation, Daro mat, daravo mat. There is a profound political truth in what he has said. Unfortunately, no one has analyzed the implications of that very significant and central statement that he made in the Lok Sabha of the Indian Parliament, and he repeated it at least 20 times, indicating that he attached profound significance to it. And we shall try and attempt through a separate video to understand why he did so and its significant relevance to the Indian context of our times. Now, the reason why I advocate neutrality or non-attachment in the typical Buddhist fashion, if you like, to either of the camps or both camps, is that any partial attachment, any loyalty to any particular camp will seriously hinder our capacity to think fairly, objectively, justly, and truthfully. The logic is very simple. No camp has the full monopoly of the truth. Every camp is a partial embodiment of truth, or every camp is only in possession of the partial truth. But each camp will insist that the partial truths that it is aware of, the partial truths it has embraced, is the whole truth, and there is no truth beyond what they espouse or what they propagate. So, by aligning ourselves with any particular camp, we renounce or forfeit the freedom to seek truth in its totality. And if at all truth is to be known, it has to be sought in its totality. Anything less than that is half-truth, and half-truth sometimes does more harm than full-blooded untruth. So with that as the proviso, let's look into this. Let's start with the given. The given is that for nearly 10 or even 15 years, a very consistent, intense, orchestrated campaign to portray Rahul Gandhi in the most uncharitable of terms imaginable was undertaken. And the way this campaign was conducted made many believe, and I was one among them, that the people who were mouthing these things were actually speaking in a state of sincerity, because they seemed to believe ardently in what they were saying. They were saying the same thing repeatedly, and they were saying apparently with a lot of conviction, and this has had an impact. Now, this is a fact. Now, this fact lends itself to two completely different interpretations. And the scope of the present video is to examine the two interpretations. They are not my interpretations, they are not your interpretations. These are interpretations that already exist. And what we are trying to do is to adjudicate between them and to arrive at our dispassionate judgment as to which is closer to the truth and why these interpretations exist at all in the public domain. Now, what are these two interpretations? First is that the Sangh Parivar deliberately resorted to this strategy, knowing fully well that what they were saying about Rahul Gandhi was not the truth, and what they said did not come anywhere near the truth, that they did not bother to find out the truth about him, that they did not give him any chance whatsoever to prove his mettle in the field of politics, that they prejudged him, which is extremely unfair. To judge a person as good for nothing even before he begins the race, you will agree with me, is the height of unfairness. Suppose you want to participate in a race. You are a promising athlete, or suppose your son or daughter is a promising athlete. You are taking your son or daughter to an athletic competition, and you are pretty sure that your son is talented, your daughter is talented, and he or she will do exceptionally well. But you go there, and the person who is conducting the 100 meters race looks at your daughter or son and says, no, he is good for nothing, she is good for nothing. And you plead with that person concerned, look, please give my daughter, my son a chance to prove himself, either his ability or his incapacity as an athlete. That person says, no, I have decided, even before your son or daughter races, I have decided that he or she is not good enough. Now, quite obviously, that's a very unfair position to take. That's precisely what I mean. So it is obvious, that the Sangh Parivar, with Modi and Amit Shah at the top of it, at the apex of this huge pyramid of power, prejudged Rahul, or judged him before he even stepped into the ring, and pronounced him as a good for nothing fella. Now, that is one. The other is, even if the Sangh Parivar, with all their think tank and their political mesmerizing, hypnotic political leadership at the top, even if they had not prejudged Rahul, even if they had held back their indictment of him and allowed him free play, allowed him opportunities to prove himself in the sphere of politics, they still would not have understood him aright for a reason. And what is that reason? And that is what I would like you to understand very clearly. The reason is that so long as a person or a political bloc is seriously prejudiced against a human being, they will never be able to see the truth about him, even if they give him 5 years, 10 years, 50 years. Why? Because prejudice interferes very seriously with any truthful, objective understanding of the reality. Now, if you think that so and so is an idiot, and you allow that person to interact with him for 10 years, you will never really interact with him because in your mind there is a hindrance already lodged, namely that this person is an idiot. Therefore, your mind will not respond to him even if consciously you maintain the appearance of paying attention to him. Or if at all you pay attention to him, it would be only to pick up evidence to prove further that he is an idiot, is an nincompoop. That is how human cognition, the dynamics of understanding, works within us. So therefore, the precondition to understand reality is to liberate ourselves from the influence of any bias, any prejudice, any preconceived notion. To put very simply, if you prejudge something, you shut your mind against that person or that event, and you cripple yourself, you disable yourself in relation to finding out the truth about that person. It is like seeking with your eyes closed. Both your eyes are shut, firm. And then you say, I would like to see you, I would like to see you, where are you? It is exactly like that. So, in the second of the two interpretations, first is that it was a deliberate, orchestrated campaign, knowing fully well that they were telling the untruth about Rahul Gandhi, and they still went ahead because they had a need to damn him, discredit him, disable him, so as to avoid serious competition. The second is, well, they believed what they said about him because their prejudice disabled him from understanding the truth about Rahul Gandhi. And this is true about everything. Now, for example, in my capacity as the member of the Delhi Minorities Commission, a member of the National Commission for Minority Education Institutions, member of the National Integration Council, so on and so forth, I had to deal with instances of discrimination and even atrocities against the Christian community. People used to come to me to cry on my shoulders and to see if I could procure some relief for them, etc. It was part of my official assignment. So it was not because I was anyone great personally, but because it was part of my official assignment. People used to come to me, and so I know what was happening. Now, the atrocities happened not accidentally. The atrocities were perpetrated as a natural outcome of the prejudices entertained about Christian missionaries, Christian workers, Christian preachers, etc. Now, for example, to give you my own example, when I became the principal of St. Stephen's College, I was already a Christian priest. Though I had not held charge of any congregation, I was always in the domain of higher education, and I was working in St. Stephen's College. I headed the English department. For a while, I served as the vice principal of the college. But when I became the principal of the college, a massive orchestrated campaign was mounted against me precisely to prove that I was mentally retarded, I was an idiot, so on and so forth, because the people who opposed me were prejudiced against my identity as a priest. They saw me through the colored glass of my priesthood, which rendered them blind to the fact that 10 years before I became a priest, I had become a faculty member of St. Stephen's College through fair competition. I was one of the most distinguished students serving on the faculty of St. Stephen's College. I had served myself at the national level, international level, contributed to various fields, including medical fields. I had authored 17 books, contributed about 1,200 newspaper articles. There was none like me in the 130-year history of the college, either as principal or even as faculty member, in spite of the fact, by virtue of my having the identity also of a priest, the prejudice began to act very powerfully, and everybody was very readily convinced that I was a good for nothing fellow because I was a priest. After all priests are idiots, or all priests are inefficient people, incompetent people. This man is a priest, therefore, by force of syllogism, the third degree syllogism, he is also a good for nothing fellow. And thereafter, no matter how I prove my merit, it will fall on deaf ears, it will meet with shut eyes and minds, because the prejudice operates deep within the consciousness of people. It prevents them from understanding or realizing the merit of what I am doing. It is simply futile on my part to try and convince them that I have merit and I am more meritorious than most others. Nothing of what I do, nothing that I would say, no evidence that I present to them will have any effect whatsoever, because once the prejudice lodges itself in the minds of people who look at you, that's the end of it. So today, on the basis of, on the strength of my own experience, I am inclined to view the campaign mounted by the Sangh Parivar, the BJP, and on top of the BJP think tank and the propaganda machine, in a more charitable sense, namely, that they were simply incapable of understanding Rahul. Therefore, and I'm going to close on that, therefore, the fact that they came very readily, very promptly, very precipitously to the conclusion that this young man was a Pappu was not a statement of truth about him, but rather a statement of incapacity on the part of his detractors, saying, look, we can't see the truth about you. We suffer from a problem. We are inwardly crippled by the prejudices that have taken hold of me, or the prejudices that have penetrated and colonized us. We don't have the freedom to understand you right. We can see only a Pappu in you, not because you are a Pappu, but because the glasses through which we look at you are Pappu glasses, Pappu glasses, Pappu glasses. So I am now giving to my viewers a new concept, Pappu glasses, Pappu glasses. Just as through an earlier video I gave you the concept of the man of the moment, this is something complementary to that. When the man of the moment is viewed through Pappu glasses worn by certain people, they cannot see the man of the moment, they can only see Pappus. With the same pair of glasses, if they look at anybody, they'll see only Pappus everywhere. So given the chance, they will turn the whole of country into a land of Pappus, because they are wearing the Pappu glasses, Pappu glasses, Pappu glasses. Where are you, Pappu? I am wearing Pappu glasses. This is the truth. Now, why do I say this? I don't say this to belittle anyone. Please don't get my intention wrong. Please remember, I am a teacher. As a teacher, I feel extremely sad, unbearably sad, when seemingly responsible people, educated people, people who have had the benefit of higher education, behave in this manner. When they do this disservice to themselves, namely they cripple their own mind and prevent themselves from discovering the truth, or to put it from a slightly different angle of vision, when they deliberately embrace prejudices and biases, which they know jolly well will cripple their capacity to see the truth about anyone and everyone. My dear friends, it is a serious discredit to anyone who has even basic literacy to look at anything, anyone, any situation through eyes of prejudice. Our national motto is Satyameva Jayade. Truth will triumph. But please, for God's sake, understand, if truth is to triumph, there's a precondition. And that condition is, we must renounce, we must abjure, we must cast away all our prejudices. If Indians move around burdened with their prejudices, and we look at each other only through these Pappu glasses, Pappu glasses, Pappu glasses, how can we honor this national motto Satyameva Jayade and honor them? We'll have to say Satyam never jayade. My Sanskrit is bad. I have no Sanskrit, therefore, please allow me to use a little bit of English there. Satyam never jayade. That's exactly what is happening. And to think that the most dominant political force in this country is in this state is a worrisome thought. My primary concern is that it puts them in a bad light. Not only in a bad light, it will also, and this truth will become increasingly clear from now onwards, it will also seriously handicap them in relation to understanding the realities which they have to handle. And I don't have to argue this at length that if you want to handle the given realities effectively, you have to understand them aright. How can you manage a reality or a situation or a problem properly, effectively, if you mistake it? So, even out of vested interest, even out of inspired sense of self-interest, the detractors of Rahul Gandhi must now shake themselves free of the shackles of the untruth they have so deliberately invited upon themselves, so that they can discern the truth, the factual situation that they have to handle. The alternative is to go on repeating the same Pappu nonsense, or even if you don't say it, keep that in the mind and behave accordingly. Then you will only cripple yourself. So I submit this possible way of looking at this important national situation, to which we cannot remain indifferent. As citizens, and responsible, mature citizens at that, we have a duty to understand national realities as truthfully, objectively, and in an intellectually sound manner. And that's the sole purpose that keeps us going. I state it again and again and again. Our interest is not so much in this person or that person, whether it is Rahul or Modi. Our interest is in what is in the ultimate interest, ultimate analysis, good or beneficial to the country. What is it that can do justice to us as Indians? We respect ourselves and we recognize the great potential that we hold. What is it that can contribute to the greatness of the public culture, the nobility of the public culture of India? Surely, the population of an entire country being pushed down the quagmire of untruth, shallow notions, willful distortions, mistaken notions, prejudices, biases, is not the best way to make India great. It's the surest way to make India a country that all of us will have to feel very painful about. And, God forbid, we could become an object of aversion if this goes on and on. Because to an objective third-party point of view, this kind of thing will be seen only as silly, infantile, or to use the famous expression, balak buddhi. This is typical balak buddhi. Trying to understand the things around us, persons around us, not as they are, without any concern for the truth about it, but exactly how it suits my convenience, without the slightest commitment to knowing the truth about the person. That is certainly not a sign of maturity. It's a sign of the infantile attitude to life, or balak buddhi, which is eminently avoidable. So I thought I would share these two possibilities with you. And I have to say, if you want me to know where I stand with the second of the two interpretations, namely that those who were busy and enthusiastically denigrating Rahul Gandhi did so also because they were simply incapable of understanding him. Now a situation has come about in which they have to grudgingly open their eyes and see a very different order of realities, because the whole country is opening its eyes. And when this is happening, a political party cannot afford to remain as it was before this massive shift began to happen. And that shift is real. So, this is where I stand, and I offer it to you for what it's worth. I await, as usual, to hear your responses because, as you know, I'm in the state of continuing education through the responses I receive from each one of you to the videos that I share with you. I share what little I have. You share much that you have. So together we create this banquet of life. That's precisely what it is, a banquet of life. Jai Hind.